Lecture 6. The Way Spaces Were Mapped in Taiwan Aboriginal Map. Taiwan Aboriginal Map is one of the historical documents collected by National Taiwan Library. It tells us much about the environment in which Han Taiwanese people have once lived. Environments changes over time. To make a permanent record, human beings have done plenty of work to fight against inevitable changes. Some people write down poetry or prose. Some people take photographs or videos. Some people take voice records. And some of us make maps. Cartographers, as they are called, try to represent how sites were located within a certain space on their maps. Reading a map is thought to be the best way for people to get a holistic grasp of their surrounding spaces. We can tell directions, distances, landforms, and distribution of roads and dwelling places just by reading a map. Human activities and how we use a land can also be shown on a map. With all these features, it is not surprising that cartography, or the science and practice of drawing maps, is thought to be the best tool for representing terrestrial spaces. Taiwan Aboriginal Map was made during the early stage of the Qing dynasty's rule over Taiwan. It provides us with a precious record of how Han Taiwanese people have once lived. Let's explore some more special features of the map. Why was Taiwan drawn horizontally on the map, with its north on the left and south on the right? You may find it strange when you spread out the Taiwan Aboriginal Map because Taiwan was drawn flat and slender, and the north is on the left-hand side and the south right-hand side. It just doesn't look like those maps we are used to see today. Most maps today have the north atop and the south at the bottom. Taiwan Aboriginal Map looks just as it was rotated 90-degree anti-clockwise. In fact, it was not standard to set the north atop in early Chinese cartography. Rather, it was completely normal to set the direction in accordance with the supposed reader's point of view. If, say, a place somewhere south of China's capital was to be drawn onto a map, and the map was to be read by the emperor who was in the capital, then the north would be set at the bottom and the south the top, because the southern part was nearer and the northern part farther from the emperor's view. For the same reason, when Han Taiwanese people came to Taiwan from the mainland, what they saw on their boats was a horizontal Taiwan, with its northern part on the left and southern part on the right. Taiwan was therefore drawn horizontally most of the time during that age. Especially when cartographers tried to draw a map on a traditional Chinese scroll, which was supposed to spread out horizontally, they chose to draw a lying down Taiwan. Why did Taiwan Aboriginal Map include only Western Taiwan? When Han Taiwanese people sailed from west to east, heading towards Taiwan, they could only see what was to the west of the Central Mountain Range. Taiwan had been inhabited by indigenous peoples when Han Taiwanese people came, so the Han Taiwanese had much difficulty settling down. It was nearly impossible for them to climb over mountains or sail along the coast to settle in the eastern part. They therefore knew little about East Taiwan, and that's why Taiwan Aboriginal Map included only the west. Why does the Taijiang Inner Sea seem to have been enlarged? Why does it seem that Penghu Archipelago has drifted away from where it should have been? Can you imagine drawing a map without aerial photography or satellite measurement technology? That was how ancient people made their maps. Han Taiwanese people relied on a method called Jili Huafang, which literally means to count miles and draw areas to make maps. The method worked like this. They counted the distance of a site from where they settled, and then they figured out where to put it onto their map. That is why they have got nearer places much more detailed than farther ones, as they were familiar with the former and unfamiliar with the latter. As researchers have found out, not surprisingly, they made more mistakes for farther places. The greater Tainan city was enlarged intentionally and drawn meticulously, because the Han Taiwanese people live around the area during the early stage of the Qing dynasty's rule. To give an example, the actual size of the shoals or sandbanks of Taijiang Inner Sea was rather small compared to the distance between Danshui River estuary and the Dajia River estuary. The shoals, however, covered as long as the distance between the two river estuaries on the map. The presumed cartographers spoiled no less accuracy to the Penghu archipelago. The northernmost island of the archipelago was drawn next to Dadu River estuary, rather than the Zhuoshui River estuary, where it actually was. Moreover, the whole archipelago seems to have been moved northeast to the sea off Changhua and Yunlin to fit in the size of the scroll. In fact, the relative position for every island of the archipelago was not accurate. Not even close. Even so, we still have to say that it was not easy to make a map like this in the 17th century. Over 300 years, do you know what has happened to the Taijiang Inner Sea? The Taijiang Inner Sea, as we see it in Taiwan Aboriginal Map, is a water area circled by a series of shoals located between Zhengwen River in the north and Erren River in the south, with many sailboats sailing within. It's not difficult to tell that the sea had suffered from siltation by the time the map was made. As you can see, boats were unable to get into the harbor of Tainan City, so people had to ride bullock carts to get to the boats and haul cargoes. The accumulated sediment has continued to increase over the 300 years since then. Today, the Taijiang Inner Sea has become solid land. It would be difficult to imagine Luermen Madzu Temple or Fort Zeelandia to be surrounded by water without the images provided by Taiwan Aboriginal Map. What's more amazing is the fish ponds, the salt evaporation pond, and the villages around these attractions today all used to be navigable by water. Isn't it fun to travel back to 17th and 18th century Taiwan through reading a map?